this was a cutting, and as you can see, the soil level is quite down. Oh, this just fell off. There we go. And if I take it out, so 2 fingers at the stem, squeeze the pot, and it'll come out quite easily. So the root system is pretty good, and I just want to freshen the soil up. Now I think the pot is okay, but it can go one size bigger. Now when you're potting on, it doesn't necessarily mean you need a bigger pot. What you could do is to just show you, take the plant out. I'll put it in something at the moment because the sun's out and I don't want the roots to get damaged, so that can go in the shade. So filling my pot a little bit with the compost because it was something like that it was not enough. So fill that in, compress it slightly, get my plant back, put it back in, put it in the middle. That's okay. More compost. Compressing it slightly. I'm doing it really rough, okay, because this is not what I'm going to do with this. Then I'm going to take the lower leaves off. I can do that with kalanchoe because there will be more roots growing from where I took the leaves off, as long as I don't smother the stem too much with soil. So that could be seen as potting on as well. Now I want it to go in a bigger pot. If you don't want that, you can do 2 things, because this is a nicer pot than that. It's an indoor plant. So what I could do, just stealing some gravel, because when I put it in like this, oh, that's alright actually. Don't need the gravel. So I could leave it like that. This pot has drainage holes, this one doesn't. So when you have pots like that, just for ease, so it's easy to lift out and look after it, it's quite a good way to do it. Sometimes you might want a little bit bigger pot, put some gravel underneath, so the bottom of that pot and the bottom of this one don't touch, so there's a little bit of air in between, so water can actually drain out. Just remember to check your pots then, in that case, once in a while, okay? Yeah, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my plant straight into this pot. Now, if you have well-drained soil, so a lot of grit, you can put a bit of grit in the bottom for drainage, and then put the plant on top of it. Now, I'm not really going to do that because this compost is well drained, and I'm very on top of my plants. Yeah, so if you're a bit less on top of your plants, then do that. Put a little bit of gravel or grit on the bottom of your pot. Sometimes you see people put broken shards of terracotta pots in the bottom. I'm not a fan of that because I find all the time that that's a great environment for pests, especially wood lice. They gather around there and make a nice home, and that's not what I want with my plants. So I find grit or grit works a lot better because it doesn't leave big air pockets for those pests to make a nice home. Yeah, so what I do, kalanchoes do need well drained soil. They don't like sitting wet. I tend to leave them quite dry and dampen the soil, not wet it. Yeah, so well drained soil. So again, I put a little bit of it in my pot. Take this out. I'm gonna squeeze a little bit of that out so you can see the roots quite clear now. Yeah, so that I mix in and I'll measure. So I'll put my plant in. Now there's a lot of depth there. It's not what I want. You want it like a tiny bit of space from the top of the soil with your plant pot. That's just when you water, it doesn't go everywhere. And as well, sometimes when pots have rims, sometimes when you put onto that side and you water to the top, that's enough water to water the whole pot. Yeah? I don't really work like that, but it does work if that's for you, okay? So I'm measuring my plant. I need a bit more soil on the bottom. Compress it slightly, not too much, because you don't want to press all the air out. Yeah, plants need air, roots need air. Most of them, there's always exceptions, remember that. So when it's like this, I'm quite happy. You see? So now I'm gonna fill it up. So I have my plant stem in the middle, and then I'm gonna put more soil in it, and I compress it a little bit. Tap it, and that's it. That's repotting. So now I'm just gonna water, making a mess. And because it's nice and good weather, I'm just gonna be not too finicky with it, because the water will dry. Now plants that are hairy, they don't like water on their leaves, okay? So be mindful of that. They'll get like little spots on them, and I have done that there. So if you are very precious with your plants, then be aware of that. I'm not that fast, because they will be fine, especially on day like today, it'll dry out. But that's it, that's watered. Yeah, because know your plant, always know your plant. Kalanchoes don't like sitting wet. So you can see how good protection these hairs are, because the water droplets just sit on top of the leaf. Yeah, but that's potting on basically. And I let this dry out, and then it can come inside with me. Done. If you have any questions, let me know. Know your plant, know what compost it needs. Yeah, so some like cacti, succulents, like well drained soil. They don't like sitting wet, quite sandy soils, you know. Think of where they grow in the wild, so give them that. Yeah, orchids, they grow on trees, so well, not all of them, but you know, bark, airy compost. And then you've got your typical herbaceous. Most plants like well drained. Most plants don't like sitting wet. Okay, but there's always exceptions, so know your plants. Anyway, that's a short video about how to pot on, and now it's up to me to stay on top of it. So again, like I've watered it, I know the weight. It's quite heavy, so half this weight I even don't need to water. So I'm going to just leave it until that weight I can pick it up and it's really light. You know, plant watering, it doesn't work like once a week or once every 2 weeks, once a month. It doesn't work like that. Know the weight of your pot, and you know, stick your finger in if you're not sure. Anyway, blah blah blah. I did another video on watering, so have a look at that one. But that's potting on. So make sure the soil is just below the top of the pot. Yeah, make sure it's a little bit compressed but not too much. You want still air in there, and make sure the stem is in the middle if that's what you want. I was always quite useless at putting plants exactly in the middle, so I've improved. But there you go. Have a lovely day, and if you have any questions, leave a comment or send me a message. You know where to find me. Have a nice day.